Security! We've got trespassers! The words slammed across the Grand Heritage Hotel lobby like a gunshot. Manager Derek Sullivan snapped his fingers at Marcus and Maya Thompson like calling dogs. The twins had just walked through the doors when his voice boomed for everyone to hear. Security will escort you out if you don't leave now. Every guest in the lobby turned to stare. The 22-year-old twins froze as Sullivan walked over and deliberately knocked Maya's backpack off her shoulder, sending her books scattering across the floor. This is what happens when trash tries to sneak into decent places. Marcus bent down to help his sister collect her things. His hands were steady, but his jaw was tight. Maya's fingers found her phone. She hit record just as Sullivan grabbed Marcus by the shirt collar and shoved him backward. "Get your dirty hands off my property before I call the cops on both of you," Sullivan snarled, loud enough for everyone to hear. What Sullivan didn't know would destroy him. Have you ever seen instant karma hit someone who truly deserved it? The Grand Heritage Hotel wasn't just any hotel. Built in 1892, its towering columns and gold-trimmed walls screamed old money. Every surface sparkled with the kind of perfection that only generational wealth could maintain. This was where senators held private dinners and CEOs made billion-dollar deals over afternoon tea. But today, something different was happening. The annual National Youth Development Conference had taken over the East Wing. Dr. Patricia Williams, a former federal judge with silver hair and sharp eyes, had organized this gathering to address youth violence in America's cities. She believed the solution wasn't more police or more prisons. It was teaching young people to defend themselves with dignity. That's why she had invited Marcus and Maya Thompson. Marcus moved through the world like water flowing around rocks. At 22, he stood 6 feet tall with broad shoulders that came from years of training, but his gentle brown eyes suggested a healer more than a fighter. He was both. After serving as an army medic in Afghanistan, Marcus returned home to inner-city Detroit with a mission. He opened a community center where he taught something revolutionary. Martial arts focused on protection, not destruction. His specialty was de-escalation through strength. Marcus had developed what experts called the minimal force method, techniques that could stop an attacker without causing permanent damage. Police academies across 3 states now used his curriculum. But looking at him in his simple jeans and worn sneakers, most people saw just another young black man who didn't belong in their spaces. Maya was her brother's perfect complement. Where Marcus flowed like water, Maya burned like controlled fire. She stood 5'7" with her brother's same broad shoulders and a law student's razor-sharp mind that could recall legal precedents like a computer. While Marcus healed bodies, Maya fought for justice in courtrooms. What most people didn't know was that Maya held an undefeated record in amateur mixed martial arts. 15 fights, 15 victories, most ending in the first round. She fought under the name Legal Eagle because she studied her opponents like case law, finding weaknesses, exploiting openings, delivering precise strikes that ended conflicts quickly. Both twins carried a secret that would have shocked anyone judging them by their modest appearance. They were martial arts prodigies who had been training since age 6. Their grandmother, a former army nurse who survived the civil rights movement, taught them that true strength meant protecting others, never seeking revenge. Derek Sullivan represented everything the twins had been fighting against their entire lives. At 45, he had inherited his position as hotel manager from his father, who inherited it from his father before him. 3 generations of Sullivans had controlled who was welcome at the Grand Heritage. Derek wore his authority like expensive cologne, heavy and impossible to ignore. Princeton-educated with perfectly styled gray hair, Derek saw the hotel as his personal kingdom. He decided who belonged and who didn't. In his mind, maintaining standards meant keeping out anyone who might make his wealthy guests uncomfortable. He had perfected the art of discrimination through politeness, using words like policy and security to mask his prejudice. The conference setting created perfect tension. Dr. Williams had specifically chosen the Grand Heritage to make a point. If young people from struggling communities could learn self-defense and leadership in a place that usually excluded them, maybe society could change too. She knew Derek would resist, but she also knew the law was on her side. The lobby itself became a character in this story. Its marble floors amplified every sound, the crystal chandeliers caught every movement. Security cameras recorded every gesture. When Derek Sullivan decided to humiliate the Thompson twins, he chose to do it in a space designed to make everything feel larger than life. Other guests watched from leather chairs and behind marble columns. Some were conference attendees, teachers, social workers, youth advocates who had come to learn new approaches to violence prevention. Others were the hotel's typical clientele, business executives and politicians who paid premium prices for exclusive access. The twins knew they were being tested before they even spoke their first words. Maya's phone was already recording when Derek approached them. Marcus had positioned himself slightly in front of his sister, a protective stance that came from instinct and training. What none of the observers realized was that they were about to witness something extraordinary. The Thompson twins didn't just teach self-defense. They were living examples of what happened when skill met character under pressure. And Derek Sullivan was about to learn why underestimating people based on appearance was the most dangerous mistake he could make. 2 security guards appeared within seconds, their radios crackling with static. "We have a situation in the main lobby," one of them spoke into his device. Sullivan pointed at the twins like a prosecutor presenting evidence. "These individuals are trespassing on private property." Marcus stepped forward, his voice calm despite the chaos around them. "Sir, we're here for the Youth Development Conference. We have an invitation." He reached into his backpack and pulled out official conference materials with Dr. Williams' letterhead. Sullivan barely glanced at the documents before waving them away. "Anyone can fake paperwork these days." His voice carried across the lobby, ensuring every guest could hear his verdict. "I don't care what little game you're trying to play, this is a respectable establishment." Maya's recording captured everything as Sullivan's face twisted with disgust. "Do you see the kind of people trying to infiltrate our hotel?" he said to nearby guests. "This is exactly why we have security protocols." That's when Dr. Patricia Williams rounded the corner from the conference wing. Her silver hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her judge's bearing commanded instant respect. She took in the scene with sharp eyes that had seen decades of injustice. "Mr. Sullivan, what exactly is happening here?" Her voice cut through the tension like a scalpel. Sullivan's confidence wavered for just a moment before returning full force. "Dr. Williams, I'm handling a security breach. These individuals were attempting to—" "These individuals," Dr. Williams interrupted, "are Marcus and Maya Thompson. They are my invited keynote speakers for this morning's self-defense workshop." She looked directly at the security guards. "They are my personal guests, and they have every right to be here." The lobby fell silent except for the soft hum of air conditioning. Sullivan's face flushed red as he realized his mistake, but his pride wouldn't let him back down completely. "Well, perhaps there was some miscommunication," he said through gritted teeth. "But in the future, all conference speakers should check in at the front desk first." He turned to the guards. "Stand down." Dr. Williams extended her hand to both twins. "I apologize for this reception. Please let me escort you to the conference wing." But as they walked away, Sullivan's eyes followed them with unmistakable resentment. His humiliation in front of his hotel's guests had planted a seed of revenge that would grow into something much more dangerous. He pulled out his phone and began typing a message that would change everything. The message Sullivan typed was simple but deadly. "Need backup. Rich kids who know how to handle problems. Cash available." Within an hour, 3 young men arrived at the Grand Heritage like sharks smelling blood. Blake Morrison, 24, stepped out of his BMW wearing a designer suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. His father owned half the commercial real estate downtown. Connor Walsh followed, his trust fund financing a lifestyle of expensive toys and zero consequences. Tyler Brooks completed the trio, his family's political connections making him untouchable in most situations. Sullivan met them in his private office, overlooking the hotel's main lobby through one-way glass. "See those two down there?" He pointed at Marcus and Maya setting up equipment for their afternoon workshop. "They embarrassed me in front of my guests, made me look weak." Blake leaned back in the leather chair, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "So you want them gone?" "I want them to understand their place," Sullivan replied. "And I want it done in a way that doesn't trace back to me." Blake understood perfectly. He had been running this kind of operation since prep school. "Consider it handled." The harassment began subtly. During Marcus's first workshop demonstration, the room's lights flickered and died. Hotel maintenance claimed electrical issues, but somehow every other conference room remained bright. Marcus continued teaching in semi-darkness, his voice steady despite the obvious sabotage. Maya's legal clinic faced similar problems. The Wi-Fi mysteriously stopped working whenever she tried to access case law databases. Room temperature controls malfunctioned, making participants sweat through their clothes. Coffee service was delayed by hours, leaving attendees hungry and frustrated. But Sullivan's team was just getting started. Blake's crew began following the twins throughout the hotel. They positioned themselves at elevator doors, forcing Marcus and Maya to wait for the next car. In the restaurant, they occupied tables around the twins, making loud comments designed to humiliate. "Look at them trying to use the good silverware," Connor whispered, just loud enough for other diners to hear. "Probably never seen a cloth napkin before." Tyler pulled out his phone and started filming the twins eating lunch. "This is going straight to social media," he announced. "Everyone needs to see what kind of people are infiltrating nice places now." The psychological warfare was carefully calculated. Blake had studied the twins' social media presence and knew exactly where to strike. He created fake accounts and began flooding their posts with racist comments and threats. He encouraged his followers to do the same. Maya watched their professional reputation crumble in real time. Comment sections that once praised their youth work are now filled with hateful messages questioning their qualifications. Conference sponsors began receiving concerned calls about the speakers' backgrounds. Sullivan observed everything from his office, feeling his power return with each successful attack. In his mind, he was protecting his hotel's reputation from people who threatened the natural order. He convinced himself that maintaining exclusivity was actually a public service. "These people need to learn that actions have consequences," he told Blake during their evening strategy meeting. "They came here thinking they could embarrass me in my own hotel. Now they'll discover what real embarrassment feels like." The harassment escalated beyond professional sabotage. Blake's crew began personal attacks. They followed Maya to the hotel gym, making comments about her body and questioning whether she was really a woman given her athletic build. They cornered Marcus in the lobby, asking if he was packing heat, since his kind usually carried weapons. Each incident was designed to provoke a reaction that could be filmed and used against them. Blake wanted the twins to lose control, to give him ammunition for legal action or viral humiliation. But Marcus and Maya had been training for this their entire lives. Marcus documented every incident in a small notebook, recording times, witnesses, and exact quotes. His military training had taught him that preparation was the best weapon against psychological warfare. Maya used her legal education to research the hotel's liability for allowing harassment on their property. She discovered that the Grand Heritage had faced similar discrimination complaints before, all settled quietly with non-disclosure agreements. The twins' workshop attendance dropped dramatically as word spread about the troublemakers in the conference. Dr. Williams tried to support them, but even she faced pressure from hotel management to distance herself from the controversy. By the third day, only 12 people attended Marcus's self-defense workshop. The room designed for 50 felt cavernous and cold. Maya's legal clinic was down to 8 participants, all of whom kept glancing nervously at the door. Blake sensed victory approaching. He had successfully isolated the twins, damaged their reputation, and turned public opinion against them. All that remained was delivering the final blow that would destroy them completely. That evening, as Maya walked alone to the parking garage, Blake stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. Connor and Tyler flanked him, blocking her path to the exit. The security cameras in this section had been mysteriously disabled an hour earlier. "Time for your final lesson," Blake said, pulling out his phone to record. "You and your brother are going to pack up and leave tonight, and you're going to post an apology video explaining why people like you don't belong in places like this." Maya looked at the three men surrounding her, calculating distances and exit routes with the precision of a chess master. Her finger hovered over her phone's emergency call button. But Blake wasn't finished with his ultimatum. "Or we can do this the hard way, and trust me, you don't want to find out what that looks like." Maya didn't run. Instead, she looked Blake directly in the eyes and said something that made him step backward. "You just threatened me on camera, in a hotel, with witnesses upstairs who know exactly where I am." Blake's confidence cracked as he realized Maya's phone had been recording the entire time. She backed toward the stairwell, keeping all three men in view, then disappeared up the emergency stairs with athletic grace. 20 minutes later, Maya burst into their hotel room where Marcus was reviewing footage from the day's workshops. "We need to talk. Now." The twins sat on the bed as Maya showed him the parking garage recording. Marcus listened without interruption, his medic training keeping his emotions controlled even as anger built in his chest. "They're escalating," Maya said. "This isn't just harassment anymore. They're planning something bigger." Marcus pulled out his notebook and spread their documentation across the hotel desk. 3 days of incidents, witness names, timestamps, everything carefully cataloged. "We have two choices. We can leave and let them win, or we can finish what we came here to do." Maya's law school training kicked in. "If we stay, we need legal protection and physical preparation. They're going to try to provoke us into a reaction they can use against us." "Then we give them a reaction they'll never forget," Marcus said quietly. "But we do it our way." The twins spent the next hour crafting a plan that would turn Blake's own tactics against him. They contacted Dr. Williams, sharing their evidence and asking for specific support. They researched the hotel's security system and identified every camera angle in public spaces. Most importantly, they prepared mentally for what was coming. This wasn't just about defending themselves anymore. It was about proving that skill and character could overcome privilege and hatred. By midnight, they were ready for war. The next morning, Marcus walked into the hotel restaurant for breakfast when Blake's voice rang out across the dining room. "Well, well, look what crawled out from under a rock." Every conversation stopped. Silverware paused mid-air. Even the kitchen staff peered through the service window to see what was happening. Blake stood up from his corner table where Connor and Tyler sat grinning like hyenas. Marcus kept walking toward the buffet, but Blake stepped directly into his path. "I'm talking to you, boy." The word boy hit the room like a slap. Several guests gasped audibly. "Excuse me," Marcus said quietly, trying to step around him. Blake shoved him backward with both hands. "Don't you walk away from me when I'm speaking to you." That's when Maya emerged from the stairwell, her phone already recording. She had been waiting for this exact moment. Dr. Williams appeared from the opposite direction, along with 3 conference attendees who had witnessed yesterday's incidents. "Blake Morrison," Maya called out clearly for the recording. "Son of Morrison Real Estate, trust fund baby with a history of assault charges that daddy's money made disappear." Blake spun toward her, his face twisting with rage. "You little—" He lunged at Maya first, which was his biggest mistake. Maya sidestepped with the fluid grace of a dancer, letting Blake's momentum carry him past her. As he stumbled, she swept his legs with a technique so smooth it looked accidental. Blake crashed into a serving cart, sending crystal glasses exploding across the marble floor. Connor charged at Marcus from behind, but Marcus had been tracking his movement in the reflection of a silver coffee pot. He spun around and caught Connor's wrist in a grip that stopped the attack instantly. Connor's face went white with pain as Marcus applied just enough pressure to control him without causing injury. "Let me go!" Connor screamed. "When you calm down," Marcus replied, his voice steady as a heartbeat. Tyler tried to circle around Maya, but she was already 3 steps ahead. Her law school training had taught her to read people's intentions like legal briefs. As Tyler reached for her arm, she caught his hand and twisted it into an arm lock that dropped him to his knees. "Please," Tyler gasped. "You're breaking my wrist." "I'm controlling your wrist," Maya corrected. "There's a difference." The entire sequence lasted less than 30 seconds, but every moment was captured in perfect high-definition video. Marcus released Connor only after he promised to stay calm. Maya let Tyler go when he apologized for trying to grab her. Blake struggled to his feet, his expensive suit stained with coffee and his pride shattered in front of dozens of witnesses. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Actually, it is," said Dr. Williams, holding up her own phone. "I've recorded everything, including your initial assault. The police are already on their way." The crowd that had gathered began talking excitedly. Someone shouted, "Did you see those moves?" Another person said, "That was incredible self-defense." A conference attendee, Sarah Lane, a high school principal from Oakland, stepped forward with her phone. "I've already posted this to my teacher's network. Everyone needs to see what real self-defense looks like." Within minutes, the video was spreading across social media platforms. The hashtag Hotel Twins Defense began trending as viewers shared the footage with comments like, "This is how you handle bullies," and "Perfect technique, zero aggression." Marcus and Maya helped Blake to his feet, checking him for injuries with professional concern. "Are you hurt?" Marcus asked, his medic training overriding any personal animosity. Blake jerked away from his help, humiliated beyond words. "Don't touch me!" Hotel security finally arrived, but by then the situation was completely under control. The twins sat calmly at a nearby table, eating breakfast while conference attendees surrounded them with questions about their techniques. Sullivan watched from the upper balcony, his face pale with fury. The viral video was already at 50,000 views and climbing rapidly. Comments sections filled with praise for the twins and harsh criticism of the hotel's management. His phone buzzed with notifications. The hotel's corporate office, the board of directors, local news stations requesting statements. Every call brought worse news about the growing public relations disaster. Blake limped toward the exit with his crew, but the damage was done. Someone had identified all 3 of them in the comments, posting their names, schools, and family connections. Their privileged backgrounds made the story even more compelling for viewers hungry for justice. Maya watched her phone as the video reached 100,000 views. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive, with martial arts experts breaking down the techniques frame by frame. Law enforcement professionals praised the minimal force approach. Teachers shared it as an example of proper conflict resolution. But the victory felt incomplete. Maya knew this was just the beginning. Blake's family had money and connections. Sullivan had power and influence. The viral video might have won them public support, but it also painted targets on their backs. Dr. Williams approached their table with a concerned expression. "You two need to prepare yourselves," she said quietly. "This kind of exposure brings opportunities, but it also brings dangers. People with power don't like being humiliated publicly." Marcus nodded, understanding the implications immediately. "They'll try to turn this around on us." "They'll claim you attacked them," Dr. Williams confirmed. "They'll hire lawyers and PR firms. They'll try to make you look like the aggressors." Maya pulled up news notifications on her phone. Already, some outlets were running stories with headlines like, "Hotel guests attacked during conference," and "Violence erupts at youth development event." The narrative war was beginning. Blake had limped straight to his father's law office, where teams of attorneys were already crafting a counter-narrative. By evening, they would file charges that could destroy everything the twins had built. The viral video had given them temporary victory, but it had also given their enemies ammunition for a much larger war. The legal papers arrived at dawn, delivered by a process server who looked apologetic as he handed them to Marcus. "Marcus Thompson, you're being sued for assault, battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The court date is next week." Maya read the documents with growing disbelief. Blake Morrison versus Marcus Thompson sought $2 million in damages for severe physical and psychological trauma. The filing claimed Marcus had attacked Blake without provocation in front of horrified hotel guests. "They edited the viral video," Maya said, showing Marcus her laptop screen. The Morrisons' legal team had hired a top PR firm that specialized in crisis management. They had taken the original footage and spliced it to remove Blake's initial attack, making it appear that Marcus had struck first. The edited version was already playing on 3 local news stations with headlines like "Violent Conference Speaker Attacks Hotel Guest" and "Martial Arts Instructor Goes Too Far." The same video that had made them heroes 24 hours earlier now painted them as dangerous aggressors. Blake appeared on the morning show wearing a neck brace and speaking in a pained voice. "I was just trying to have a peaceful breakfast when this man attacked me for no reason," he told the sympathetic host. "I'm lucky to be alive." The host nodded gravely. "And this was all caught on camera?" "Unfortunately, yes. It shows exactly how violent these people can become when they're in spaces they don't belong in." Maya threw a coffee mug across their hotel room. "He's lying through his teeth." Marcus caught her wrist gently. "Getting angry won't help us now. We need to think like lawyers." But the legal system seemed stacked against them from the beginning. Maya discovered that Morrison Real Estate had contributed heavily to District Attorney Jennifer Walsh's campaign. Connor's uncle sat on the city council. Tyler's family owned the largest law firm in the state. The twins' small community legal aid lawyer, Robert Martinez, reviewed the case with a grim expression. "They're seeking an emergency restraining order to prevent you from teaching martial arts anywhere in the state. They're claiming you're a public safety threat." Conference sponsors began withdrawing support. Dr. Williams faced pressure from the hotel and conference board to distance herself from the controversy. The twins watched their life's work crumble in real time. Social media sentiment shifted dramatically. Paid trolls flooded platforms with anti-twin content. Bot accounts created fake stories about previous incidents involving the Thompson siblings. Their youth center in Detroit received bomb threats and had to close temporarily. Marcus sat in the empty conference room where his workshop was supposed to happen, staring at chairs that would remain vacant. "Maybe we should just settle and walk away," he said quietly. "Over my dead body," Maya replied. She had been researching all night, diving deep into Morrison family history. "I found something. The Morrisons have done this before." She showed him court records going back 15 years. A pattern emerged of targeting individuals who embarrassed or challenged the family, then using lawsuits to silence them. A black teacher who complained about their rental properties. A Latino construction worker who reported safety violations. An Asian restaurant owner who refused to sell his building. "They settle out of court with NDAs," Maya explained. "The victims disappear from public view, and the Morrisons maintain their reputation." Marcus studied the documents. "So this isn't about Blake getting hurt, it's about maintaining power." "Exactly. And I think I know how to prove it." Maya had discovered something that made her hands shake with excitement. In 2019, Blake had been arrested for assault at a different hotel. The charges were dropped after his family made a large donation to the victim's charity. But the arrest report contained details that perfectly matched his behavior pattern with the twins. "He's done this before," Maya whispered. "And if he's done it before, there might be other victims willing to testify." Dr. Williams knocked on their door with urgent news. "The hotel board is meeting tonight to discuss your conference privileges. Sullivan is pushing for a permanent ban, claiming you're a liability risk." Maya showed her the Morrison family research. Dr. Williams's judicial experience helped her see the bigger picture immediately. This is systemic harassment. They're using the legal system as a weapon. Can you help us fight it? Marcus asked. Dr. Williams smiled for the first time in days. I know some people who specialize in civil rights cases, and I know some journalists who love stories about powerful families abusing the legal system. That evening, as the hotel board met to decide the twins' fate, Maya made a phone call that would change everything. She had found Blake's first victim, a young woman who had been silenced by an NDA 5 years earlier, but was ready to break her silence. The legal trap was about to become a legal nightmare for the wrong people. The mysterious phone call came at 2 a.m. My name is Jessica Rodriguez. I was Blake Morrison's first victim. I can't stay silent anymore. Maya met Jessica at an all-night diner outside the city, away from Morrison family influence. Jessica's hands trembled as she slid a thick folder across the table. 5 years ago, Blake cornered me in a parking garage just like he did to you. When I defended myself, his family destroyed my life. The folder contained everything: photos of Jessica's injuries, hospital records, police reports that mysteriously disappeared from official files. Most damning of all, recorded phone calls between Blake's father and the district attorney's office, discussing how to handle the Rodriguez situation quietly. They offered me $50,000 and an NDA, Jessica explained. I was 20 years old, working 2 jobs to pay for college. I took the money and promised never to speak about what Blake did to me. Maya studied the evidence with her lawyer's eye. Why are you breaking the NDA now? Because I watched your video. I saw how you and your brother handled yourselves with dignity. You're fighting the same monster I was too scared to face. Jessica's voice grew stronger. And because I found 2 other women who Blake attacked. We're all ready to testify. The courtroom hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. Morrison family lawyers filled one side with enough legal firepower to bankrupt a small country. The twins sat with Robert Martinez and Dr. Williams, their entire case built on truth and video evidence. Blake's attorney, Richard Sterling, was a man who turned lies into art. He stood before the judge wearing a suit worth more than most people's cars. Your Honor, my client is the victim of a coordinated attack by individuals with martial arts training and a history of violence. Sterling projected the edited video that removed Blake's initial aggression. As you can see, Mr. Morrison was simply eating breakfast when he was savagely attacked without warning. Maya watched the judge's face carefully. Judge Patricia Santos had built her career prosecuting civil rights cases before taking the bench. She studied the video with sharp attention to detail. I notice this footage appears edited, Judge Santos observed. Do we have the complete, unedited version? Maya stood up. Your Honor, I represent my brother in this matter. We have multiple camera angles showing the complete incident. Sterling objected immediately. Ms. Thompson is not a licensed attorney. She cannot represent anyone in this proceeding. Actually, Dr. Williams interjected, rising from the gallery, Ms. Thompson passed the bar exam last month. Her license was approved yesterday morning. The courtroom buzzed with surprise. Maya had taken the bar exam early and spent sleepless nights studying while managing the crisis. Her results had come through just in time. Judge Santos smiled slightly. Congratulations, Counselor Thompson. Please proceed. Maya approached the bench with confidence that surprised even herself. Your Honor, I call Blake Morrison to the witness stand. Blake's swagger evaporated as he was sworn in. Maya's questioning was surgical, precise, devastating. She presented Jessica's evidence piece by piece, watching Blake's face crumble with each revelation. Mr. Morrison, do you know Jessica Rodriguez? I don't recall. Let me refresh your memory. Maya played the recorded phone calls between Blake's father and the DA's office. Blake's own voice could be heard in the background laughing about teaching that girl her place. The courtroom erupted. Sterling tried to object, but Judge Santos overruled him. This appears to be directly relevant to establishing a pattern of behavior. Maya continued her attack. Mr. Morrison, how many women have you cornered in parking garages? That's not... I never... How many families has your father paid to stay quiet about your violence? Blake's composure shattered completely. You can't prove anything. Those women wanted money. They were lying. So you do remember them now? Maya's voice was deadly quiet. The psychological battle had shifted entirely. Blake, who had entered the courtroom expecting easy victory, was now trapped by his own contradictions. Maya had maneuvered him into admitting he knew about the other victims while claiming innocence. Sterling called for a recess, but the damage was irreversible. Blake's credibility was destroyed. The edited video looked obviously manipulated compared to Maya's complete footage. Social media exploded with new hashtags. #Maya Thompson brilliance and #Blake Morrison exposed. Marcus testified next, demonstrating the exact techniques he had used in the hotel. He showed the judge how each movement was designed to control, not harm. My training teaches protection, Your Honor. I used the minimum force necessary to stop the threat. Judge Santos examined Marcus's military records and martial arts certifications. She spoke with the calm authority that had made her legendary in civil rights law. Mr. Thompson's record shows consistent service to his community and impeccable character references. Sterling's final argument was desperate. These individuals came to our city looking for trouble. They brought violence to a peaceful hotel. Maya interrupted with her closing statement that would be quoted for years afterward. Your Honor, my brother and I didn't bring violence anywhere. We brought dignity to a place that had forgotten what it meant. We brought skill to a situation that demanded protection. We brought justice to a system that was broken. Judge Santos retired to consider her ruling, but everyone in the courtroom already knew which way the wind was blowing. Blake sat slumped in his chair, his empire of privilege cracking around him. Sullivan watched from the gallery, realizing that his simple plan for revenge had become a public execution of everything he represented. The twins held hands as they waited for the verdict that would determine their future. Judge Santos returned after 30 minutes with a verdict that would echo across the nation. After reviewing all evidence, including video footage, witness testimony, and documented patterns of harassment, this court finds that Mr. Blake Morrison's claims are not only false, but constitute malicious prosecution. The gavel fell like thunder. Blake's face went white as the implications hit him. Furthermore, Judge Santos continued, the evidence presented by Ms. Thompson reveals a systematic campaign of discrimination and harassment orchestrated by hotel management and enabled by the Morrison family's financial influence. Maya felt tears streaming down her face as the judge's words sank in. Marcus grabbed her hand, his own eyes wet with emotion they had held back for days. Mr. Morrison, you are hereby ordered to pay $500,000 in damages to the Thompson family for defamation, harassment, and malicious prosecution. Additionally, this court is referring your case to federal authorities for investigation of civil rights violations. Blake tried to stand but collapsed back into his chair. His father, watching from the gallery, looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. The Morrison family empire, built on intimidation and legal manipulation, was crumbling in real time. But Judge Santos wasn't finished. Mr. Sullivan, please approach the bench. Derek Sullivan walked forward on unsteady legs, knowing his fate was sealed. As hotel manager, you enabled and participated in discriminatory harassment against conference guests. This court recommends immediate termination and a full investigation by the State Tourism Board. Outside the courthouse, protesters who had gathered to support the twins erupted in celebration. The hashtag Justice for Thompson twins trended worldwide within hours. News crews captured Maya and Marcus emerging victorious, their faces reflecting exhausted relief and quiet triumph. Dr. Williams met them on the courthouse steps, with news that felt like a dream. The National Youth Development Foundation wants to hire both of you as directors. Full funding for your programs, complete creative control, national platform." Marcus looked at his sister, then back at Dr. Williams. "What about the hotel?" "The Grand Heritage's corporate board fired Sullivan this morning. They're implementing new anti-discrimination policies and want to host your first national self-defense conference as a public apology." Maya laughed through her tears. "They want us to come back to the same place that tried to destroy us?" "Sometimes the best revenge is success in the place where they tried to break you," Dr. Williams replied. The legal victory created a domino effect that reached far beyond one courtroom. Blake faced federal charges for conspiracy and civil rights violations. Connor and Tyler, caught on camera participating in the harassment, were expelled from their universities and faced their own legal consequences. The Morrison family's real estate empire faced federal investigation as other victims came forward. Jessica Rodriguez became the face of a new movement encouraging NDA recipients to speak truth to power. The hashtag Break the Silence campaign she launched helped hundreds of harassment victims find their voices. Sullivan's termination made national news as an example of accountability in corporate discrimination. The hotel industry implemented new training programs based on the Thompson twins' experience. Tourism boards across 12 states adopted anti-discrimination policies directly inspired by the case. Marcus returned to Detroit to find his community center surrounded by supporters and funding offers. Major martial arts organizations invited him to develop national curricula for responsible self-defense training. Police academies requested his de-escalation methods for officer training programs. Maya's legal practice opened to overflowing demand from discrimination victims nationwide. Law schools invited her to speak about using legal education as a tool for social justice. The video of her courtroom cross-examination became required viewing in civil rights law courses. But the sweetest victory came 6 months later. The twins returned to the Grand Heritage Hotel, now under new management, to host their first national conference for dignity and self-defense. The same lobby where Derek Sullivan had humiliated them now welcomed 800 participants from across the country. Marcus taught workshops in the same conference room where attendance had dropped to 12 people. Now every session was packed, with waiting lists hundreds of names long. Maya conducted legal clinics that empowered community advocates with knowledge to fight discrimination through proper channels. The conference's opening ceremony took place in the hotel's grand ballroom. Marcus and Maya stood at the podium where they had once been unwelcome, looking out at an audience of teachers, social workers, law enforcement officials, and young people from every background imaginable. "6 months ago," Maya began, "someone tried to convince us we didn't belong in this room. Today we're here to prove that dignity belongs everywhere, and everyone deserves to defend it." The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Flashbulbs captured the moment for newspapers across the country. The twins had transformed their humiliation into a movement that would protect countless others from similar attacks. Blake Morrison watched the coverage from his apartment, where he lived alone after his family disowned him. Connor worked at a fast food restaurant, his trust fund frozen pending legal proceedings. Tyler had moved to a different state, trying to escape the internet infamy that followed him everywhere. Derek Sullivan cleaned offices at night, his hotel management career destroyed forever. But as he watched Marcus teaching young people how to stand up for themselves with dignity, something inside him began to change. The twins had won more than a legal battle. They had proven that character and skill could defeat privilege and hatred, inspiring a generation of young people to believe in their own power to create change. 1 year later, the ripple effects of that hotel confrontation had grown into waves of change across America. The Thompson twins' story had been viewed over 50 million times, translated into 12 languages, and studied in universities as a textbook example of how individual courage could transform systems. Marcus stood in the same hotel lobby where Derek Sullivan had once humiliated him, but everything was different now. The Grand Heritage had become headquarters for the National Dignity Defense Initiative. Young people from every background came here to learn that respect was earned through character, not color or class. His minimal force method was now taught in over 300 police academies nationwide. Crime statistics from Detroit showed a 30% reduction in youth violence since his programs expanded. The secret wasn't teaching kids to fight harder, it was teaching them to fight smarter and protect what mattered most. Maya's legal practice had grown into a civil rights powerhouse. The Rodriguez versus Morrison case she won had set precedent for breaking NDAs in harassment cases. Her technique of using social media evidence to expose systematic discrimination became standard practice for civil rights attorneys. The #DefendWithDignity movement she started had chapters in 47 states. Young people wore the hashtag on T-shirts and shared videos of themselves standing up to bullies with the same calm confidence the twins had demonstrated. But the most powerful change happened in the lives of individual people who found courage they didn't know they had. 16-year-old Jamal Washington stood up to racist bullies at his high school using techniques he learned from Marcus's online videos. 18-year-old Sophia Martinez used Maya's legal research methods to expose discrimination at her workplace. Teachers across the country reported that their students were resolving conflicts through de-escalation instead of violence. The hotel itself had been transformed. Under new management, the Grand Heritage became a model for inclusive hospitality. Their anti-discrimination training program was copied by hotel chains internationally. Guest satisfaction scores reached all-time highs as the emphasis shifted from exclusivity to genuine excellence. Dr. Williams, now director of the Thompson Foundation, smiled as she watched Marcus teaching a workshop to 50 young people in the hotel's ballroom. Half were from wealthy families, half from struggling communities, all learning together that strength came from protecting others. Derek Sullivan appeared in the doorway, wearing the simple uniform of the hotel's maintenance staff. The twins had specifically requested that he be offered a job when he completed anger management and bias training. Redemption was possible for anyone willing to do the work. Marcus noticed him and nodded respectfully. Sullivan nodded back, still learning to process the generosity of people he had once tried to destroy. Blake Morrison remained in federal prison, serving 2 years for civil rights violations. His family's real estate empire had collapsed under investigation, with dozens of discrimination victims receiving justice and compensation. Connor Walsh worked construction now, his trust fund seized to pay legal settlements. Tyler Brooks had disappeared entirely, his privileged life erased by internet infamy. But this story was never really about revenge. It was about proving that when good people stand together, they can change the world. Maya closed her laptop after reviewing case files for tomorrow's discrimination hearing in Chicago. She looked at her brother, who was helping young students practice their stances with perfect patience. "Remember when we thought that hotel lobby was the worst thing that could happen to us?" she asked. Marcus grinned. "Turns out it was the best thing that ever happened to us, and to everyone we've been able to help since then." The twins had learned that sometimes your greatest strength isn't your ability to fight back. It's your ability to fight forward, creating something better from whatever tries to break you. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember that skill and character matter more than money and connections. Subscribe for more stories about underdogs who changed the world through courage and community. Have you ever witnessed discrimination that made your blood boil? How do you think you would have handled this situation? Tell us in the comments below. Your perspective matters, and your voice could inspire the next person who needs courage to stand up. Remember, true strength isn't about winning fights. It's about protecting what's right and lifting others up while you rise. Hit that notification bell for more inspiring stories of justice, resilience, and the power of never giving up. Because somewhere right now, someone needs to see that they're stronger than their circumstances, more capable than their critics, and more valuable than anyone who tries to diminish them. The next time you see someone being judged unfairly, remember Marcus and Maya Thompson. Remember that defending dignity is always worth the fight. And remember that sometimes the people who look the weakest turn out to be the strongest of all.